This is what can happen with a conventional braking system when a driver locks up the brakes, causing the tyres to lose traction. With an anti-skid braking system, computer-controlled sensors prevent the wheels locking no matter how hard the driver jumps on the brakes. As well as maintaining control, the anti-skid system lets a driver steer around trouble, even under hard braking. Around 60 imported vehicles already have anti-skid braking systems, labelled ABS. However, most of these vehicles are in the upper end of the Australian market. The 5 new Toyotas to get ABS are in the $40,000 bracket. But Toyota says the braking system, which currently costs around $2,000, could be added to more vehicles if the government waived taxes on ABS components.
We've got a variety of cars, from sports cars to sedans to people movers, and all of those vehicles can be economically equipped. In fact, could be more economically equipped if the government was to assist the automotive industry to reduce the taxes and other imposts imposed upon items of primary safety.
Even expert drivers now agree the latest ABS systems do provide improved braking safety under adverse road conditions. For this demonstration, incidentally, the challenge was to maintain control with 2 wheels on a slippery strip of plastic. But that could just as easily be an oil slick on the highway. While everyone says something should be done about improving road safety, the challenge now facing Toyota and other manufacturers is to see if the market and perhaps the government will actually pay for safer motor cars. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
Training in the 25-metre East Maitland indoor pool, Angela Matthews seems like a very fast fish in a very small pond. But if the facilities aren't top class, her performances are. 15-year-old Angela recently broke the New South Wales Country Open butterfly record for 100 metres in a time of 1 minute 2.9 seconds. Coach Bob Lawson was thrilled. Put it in perspective, how good was that
It's probably only 10 people in Australia gone under 1.3 for 100 fly. So that means that Angie at present is probably in the top 3 or 4 100-metre flyers in Australia.
It's no coincidence Angela's improvement came after a month-long stint at the Australian Institute of Sport.
I thought it was great. The facilities are great. The pool, the coaches, the food, everything's just spot on.
AIS officials have made no secret of the fact Angela is all but assured of a scholarship there next year. They're not the only ones who believe she could go on to challenge the best in the world.
I should look at the Olympics, especially if she's going to the Institute of Sport, where she could do anything, especially with the 2-year scholarship that she'll be on.
While Gosfordshire's population has increased over the past 4 years, it's now beginning to slow down, a trend that will continue according to town planners. But it still leaves the Shire only behind Sydney's Fairfield for growth in 1988 to 89, according to the report by Coopers and Nybrand. But in Wyong, which rates 3rd in the list of growth areas, more land is available for development. Here the population is expected to almost double to 150,500 by the year 2001. Meanwhile, the privately run very fast train service has announced by the year 2000 it may have a Sydney to Brisbane service operating, with a 15-minute Sydney to Gosford commuter run. At the moment, between 10 and 12,000 commuters travel daily by rail from the Gosford area to Sydney, a journey of more than 1 hour. Both Gosford and Wyong planners say this sort of boost for commuters could make the Central Coast even more attractive to new residents. And if the VFT stopped at Newcastle, it would link with Sydney in less than 3/4 of an hour.
Dr. Kirkwood, first of all, thanks for appearing on Newsnight. What new advances have been made in the treatment of melanoma?
The understanding that we have of melanoma, of the biology of this disease, is the greatest new advance that we can point to. I think we learned over the last 4 to 5 years how the body's response to this tumor in an array of molecules that is almost numberless can be brought to bear upon the therapy of this tumor.
Well, the conference itself deals with the immunological treatment of melanoma. Just what does that mean to the layman?
Well, the body's immune response is its mechanism of coping with infectious disease and with cancer, we believe. The dissection of the mechanisms of immunity to cancer have really been focused largely upon melanoma of all the cancers that we have to deal with. And it is in melanoma that some of the greatest strides for the treatment of cancer with biological substances have been brought to bear.
Well, just how does that work? I gather from what you're saying that chemotherapy hasn't worked well.
Right. Well, for the treatment of cancers in general and melanoma in particular, neither surgery nor radiation nor chemotherapy in advanced metastatic disease is very successful. And in parallel with those findings of more ominous sort, we have learned that the immune response to melanoma does in fact have some ability to cause shrinkage of the disease in metastatic situation, and perhaps to prevent the spread of the disease from the time of its earliest treatment. And so how to use the new biological substances that we have available for the treatment of melanoma is really what is part of the subject of this conference.
So what you're doing is helping the body to fight the cancer itself, is that right?
That's right. The gene cloning, the molecular biologists that have focused upon the immune system over the last 5 to 10 years have shown us that we have a variety of hormones that can stimulate individual components of the host immune response, the biological response against infection and against cancer. We have proteins that are very specific for markers that may be localized to infectious organisms or to cancer on the other side. And those antibodies, those hormones that we call cytokines, can both be brought to bear upon the treatment of cancer. And one of the topics that was addressed at the conference this morning was how specific cells can be grown from the body's tissues to be given back to the patient with cancer to cause shrinkage of the cancers in the patients from whom those cells are taken, grown up, and then restored.
So it's like manufacturing an anti-cancer serum?
An anti-cancer serum or a part of the body's mechanism of response, the cells that we have that respond against infectious and neoplastic disorder.
But what can the layman do? What can the person look out for? Avoid the sun, and of course if they notice something, get onto it quickly before it does actually go deeply into the body?
Well, I think the recognition of early forms of melanoma, of the precursor lesions that occur in the skin, are advanced probably nowhere so much as they are in Australia here, where the incidence, the epidemic of melanoma is perhaps the most well understood.
Does anyone know why that is?
Well, we presume that it is partly the exposure to the sun, the excessive exposure to the sun in a population who have a natively fair complexion, red hair, blue eyes, such as yourself, who are particularly susceptible to the effects, the carcinogenic effects of short wavelengths of ultraviolet light. And that, in fact, is part of the topic that was discussed as well at the conference this morning, the way that ultraviolet light may both induce the tumor and suppress the body's rejection response to the tumor. And so you see in ultraviolet light in the fair-skinned and lightly complected individual, you may have both the induction of the cancer we call melanoma and a mechanism that suppresses the body's defense or response to that tumor.
So the best thing to do is to avoid the sun as much as possible.
Indeed.
Thank you for joining us.
More than 400 teams from 3 states and the ACT began their quest for the Bill Turner Cup. By last night at Spears Point Oval, it came down to 2. Cheered by a large crowd, the Whitebridge under-15 team, in the white shirts, started as underdogs against a bigger and stronger team from Sydney's Epping Boys High. It was a fast-moving but scoreless first half. Frustrations flared, and both sides traded near misses. Their goalkeepers under fire in the last line of defence. Epping's attacking power showed with this attempt gathered by Peter Davison. They threw everything at the net. This goal was disallowed because of interference to the keeper. Whitebridge countered, but were penalised for being offside. In the absence of their skipper Todd Johnston, out with a broken leg from a weekend game, Whitebridge began the second half with dogged determination. After an hour of play, the score was locked at 0-0. What Epping wasn't able to do all evening, they were out to correct in extra time. A floating corner landed the ball in a goalmouth tussle, and Joel Organ put it away for the first point. Whitebridge went on the attack, a penalty in front doing nothing to ease the tension. Epping's Peter Forrest finally sent a deflection off a Whitebridge player for the second goal in the dying minutes of the game.
The Newcastle Junior Rugby League and the Junior Knights combined to pay tribute to the young footballers who battled hard all season and who gained plenty of honours for Newcastle and the Hunter Valley. Newcastle Knights superstar Ashley Gordon, a former local junior and the first player signed by the Knights, gave a stirring address to the 450 guests, which included members from the Harold Matthews Cup, the Country Under-16s, the SG Ball Cup, the Clancy Kingston Shield, Jersey Flegg and Raymar Shield teams. Special praise was given to the victorious SG Ball team that won the competition, the first premiership that the Knights have picked up, and to their captain Rodney Howe, who won the New South Wales Rugby League medal. Also, Sean Langdon from Raymond Terrace was acknowledged for being named the Newcastle Junior Rugby League Representative Player of the Year. The theme of the evening's festivities was one of unity between the Junior Knights and the Newcastle Junior Association, striving for the future of Newcastle football. In the hope of streamlining the basketball program in Newcastle, the Falcons took control of the Hunters at the start of this season, but have since discovered that trying to run a National League club and a South Eastern Basketball League team is almost impossible. With the amount of time needed to lift the Falcons from their dismal season, the writing was on the wall.
We had word of this quite some time ago, Mike, and we really expected it would come back to the association, and the association was prepared for the decision.
One pleasing aspect to come out of the split is that there is no animosity towards either party.
I think there was always doubt whether the Falcons could cope with the two teams and the organisation and the extra pressures of further coaching and training sessions and so on. And the association feels quite happy to accept the Hunters back into the ranks.
With the steering committee now in place and a unanimous vote of confidence in the SEBL in general, it's all systems go for 91.
The Hunters will be organised by the steering committee, which was formed this week, Mike, and they'll be meeting, in fact, within a couple of weeks. And the first thing they'll be looking at is sponsorship and marketing of the program. Then, with success there, they'll be looking at the coaching area and then the playing personnel.
They'd come from all over New South Wales for a chat, for a look and to spend some money.
I bid 2,600, come on, take him home. I bid 2,600 a year out, you shouldn't be.
More than 450 bulls are up for auction over the 3 days of the sale. It's an important time for the cattlemen, picking that special bull for their breeding program.
There are people in there buying bulls that they hope to put more muscle in their cattle. There are people that are hoping to buy bulls that they hope are going to put some milk genes into their cattle. It's a big mix of decisions that they have to make and put it all together.
Auctioneers have seen a change in buying trends in recent years. Substandard bulls are being rejected. Graziers are now only looking for the best.
Today you'll find going through the bull sale that your good cattle will make very good money. Anything that's not right up to scratch in the buyer's minds comes back in price.
Today's top prices cleared $6,000 with a record $6,500 paid by a Gresford breeder for an Angus bull. Shorthorns, Pole Herefords, Murray Greys and Charolais were auctioned head to head. The main ring is expected to be brimming with business again tomorrow with a complete program of Hereford stud and herd bulls. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
We have to fight invasions of bacteria, viruses every day. And the immune system is very effective in doing so to protect us from viral and bacterial infections. At the same time, another aspect is that we make billions and billions of new cells a day, because cells die and the others are taking over their functions, being identical ones. For that, cell division is necessary. That means that the DNA has to duplicate. That's where our genetic material is, and it's also the control for normal cell growth. It may happen that mistakes are being made there, and that cells do not grow normally and divide normally, but have unlimited capacity to divide and multiply themselves, and that is cancerous growth. The immune system is there to control that. It can give surveillance against abnormal growth conditions, because these cells also change on their surface so they can be recognized. So the immune system one could see as policemen that give surveillance on the streets. If unwanted events happen, they have to take action, and so will the immune system. But as you know, we are not always there where the crime is taking place. Now, if we consider a cell that becomes immortal as a crime situation and the immune system is not effective, then we will have this tumor cell to grow. And it can grow to a point and change itself by adapting it to its hostile environment, that is the patient, so that it can hide away from the immune system. And that is where we have a clinical situation of a cancer.
Is it possible to teach the body or to help the body fight the cancer itself?
There are a number of approaches one can take in order to laboratory manipulate the immune system, such that it becomes again effective against the cancers growing in the patient. Now, the interesting approach, of course, is that doing it by making use of the various components of the immune system, one uses those biologicals which already occur naturally in the body.
So they're not drugs taken from outside. You're using elements within one's body.
We use elements within one's body. However, a number of the products that we generate ourselves, which are produced within our body, we now can also produce in the laboratory by what is called genetic engineering. So we have those biological products which we find in our own body also available to us, and that allows us manipulation of the immune system in the laboratory.
Will you ever see the day when we're able to treat cancer without chemicals, without radiotherapy or without surgery?
I think that is not asking an opinion on the basis of knowledge but gut feeling. I have to be honest in that. I think that combined treatment will still be the best. However, by combining these different forms of treatment, surgery, still the major cancer treatment form, together with radiotherapy, chemotherapy and immunotherapy, will give us the opportunity at least to have a treatment which is less, if eventually not even non-toxic. And that will be a major accomplishment.
A sip of diet soft drink may seem a tame way to celebrate, but for Susan Allen, it's appropriate. In the last year, she's lost 40 kilograms by changing what was a disastrous diet. She now tops the scales at a healthy 65 kilograms, a far cry from the 105 kilos or 16 stone she once was. She was rewarded for her efforts by being named Slimmer of the Year, but says the improvement in her lifestyle made the daily dieting more than worthwhile.
I can keep up with my children more often. I've got 4 young kids and I can be with them, do more with them, and just feel better in myself.
Do you think you'll ever put all that weight back on?
I hope not, no.
In the short space of a year, the national Snowbee titles have gone from being a bit of a lark for a few fun-loving Novocastrians to a hard-fought competition for a field of serious knee sled enthusiasts. The event saw more than 100 Snowbeers converge on the fields of Guthiga for the 2-day event, among them 2 busloads from the Hunter, the heart of Snowbee country. Of that number, about 50 were serious competitors, including Ray Cashmere, the Newcastle surfer who 5 years ago created the Snowbee. Day 1 saw the staging of the freestyle event, and Mother Nature turned on the ultimate in competition conditions, with clear blue skies over the firm cover of 3-metre deep snow. The basic concept of the freestyle was simply to set off down the short course in whatever fashion takes one's fancy, and with snowbeing being a relatively new sport, there were plenty of original ideas, including barrel rolls and 360s.
Get into it, matey! Go, Stanley! Anyone got a disc sprint?
But despite the many and varied styles that emerged, the judges were unanimous in their support for the 2 winners. In the women's, Marie Gamira, the reigning national champ from Newcastle, took the points, while in the men's, who else but Ray Cashmere stole the honours. Day 2 dawned not quite so nice. Cold with a heavy cloud cover and occasional light snowfalls saw conditions turn rather icy, which proved very testing for the slalom competitors as they set off on the course down the very steep slope of the tricky Wombat Run. The art of controlling the Snowbee is to shift the body weight, leaning back and using the hands in the snow as a type of pivot point. But when you're working in sub-zero temperatures on super icy surface, that can be quite a task. Once again, Marie Gamira proved why she's the nation's #1 lady snowbeer, while B. Smith took out the men's section. However, it was the reigning national champ, David Sheeran from Newcastle, whose consistent performances over the 2 days helped him to build up a winning tally and once again become the nation's #1 Snowbee rider.